I'm Victoria, 31, with what I thought was a dream job, a cozy home, and a marriage that felt right out of a rom-com. But then, out of the blue, Aaron, my usually laid-back husband who'd rather spend his evenings with a cold beer in front of the TV, started changing his stripes. One day, he was your typical beer-loving couch potato, and the next, he swapped the remote for dumbbells and was hitting the gym with a zeal that was honestly baffling. It wasn't just a casual, maybe I'll lose a couple of pounds, kind of gym routine. No, Aaron was on it like he was training for the Olympics or something, gym sessions 7 days a week, sometimes even twice a day. I first noticed something was off when he started leaving for the gym at odd hours. Got to beat the rush, he'd say, with a sort of manic gleam in his eye that I hadn't seen before. The guy who used to scoff at my yoga sessions was suddenly talking about protein shakes, muscle gains, and rest days like he'd been doing it all his life. His wardrobe changed too. Out went the old college tees and sweatpants, and in came the sleek, high-tech gym wear. He even started wearing a new cologne that smelled more like something a suave young gym trainer would wear, not the man I married. I tried talking to him about his sudden obsession, trying to find out if something was triggering it. Was it a late quarter-life crisis? Was he feeling okay? But each time, he brushed off my concerns with a quick peck on the cheek and a vague, just trying to stay healthy, babe. But his eyes, they darted away too quickly, hiding something I couldn't quite put my finger on. It wasn't just the physical changes, though. He became more secretive. His phone was suddenly always face down, and I noticed our bank statements had charges from a high-end sports store, money spent on fancy gym equipment and supplements. The man I knew, who would rather die than miss a Friday night pizza, was now all about carb cycling and meal prep Sundays. Then there were the late returns home. The gym was supposedly a 10-minute drive away, yet Aaron would be gone for hours. Traffic was a nightmare, he'd say. Or, I met an old buddy for a protein shake. Excuses that seemed plausible at first, but started to wear thin with every passing week. The warmth in his voice cooled, and the distance grew, filling the space between us with a tension I couldn't ignore. That's when the dots started connecting in my mind, drawing a picture I didn't want to see, but couldn't look away from. My husband, the man who promised to grow old and gray with me, was slipping away, morphing into a stranger with each pumped-up, sweat-slick gym session. That day, my gut just wouldn't settle. The whispers of doubt and the tickle of suspicion had grown too loud to ignore. So, I did what anyone would do when plagued by the creeping dread that something in their marriage was amiss. I decided to follow Aaron. I told myself it was to put my mind at ease, to prove my suspicions wrong. But honestly, deep down, part of me feared I was right. I parked a couple of rows back from his usual spot at the gym, my heart hammering as I watched him pull in. I remember thinking how absurd this all was, spying on my own husband. It felt like something out of a cheesy detective show, not something I should be doing on a bright Wednesday morning. But there I was, hunched down in my seat, baseball cap pulled low over my eyes, hoping against hope I was just being paranoid. But then she appeared, Monica, his personal trainer. I recognized her from the Christmas party the gym hosted last year. She was hard to forget, with her bright smile and energetic aura that seemed to captivate everyone around her, including apparently my husband. I watched, heart sinking, as they met by her car not far from where I was hiding. Their casual smiles didn't prepare me for what happened next. It was just a moment, but it felt like an eternity. They looked around cautiously before Aaron leaned in and kissed her. It wasn't a peck or a friendly kiss. It was deep, passionate, the kind that you don't share with just anyone. It felt like a punch to the gut, watching them hidden behind my car window, my hands trembling and a lump forming in my throat. Devastated, didn't even begin to cover how I felt. Betrayed, broken, foolish, all of that and more. I drove home in a daze, my mind racing and my heart shattered. That night, as Aaron lay sleeping beside me, oblivious to the storm raging inside me, I did something I never thought I would. I reached for his phone, which he'd casually tossed on the nightstand. His carelessness, now another knife in my back. The phone lit up, and there it was, the evidence as clear as day. Text from Monica, so casual, so intimate. They talked like old lovers, comfortable and familiar. The messages cut through me, each word a confirmation of my worst fears. I hope your husband stays in the dark. We have a strict policy regarding our distance from clients, and I'd rather not have any conflict at work. I adore you though, my dear. I am waiting for you. What is the estimated time of arrival after our workout today? How about we have dinner at our favorite restaurant? Their lunch menu features some of the tastiest foods that are gluten-free and low in carbs. It was like reading lines from a script meant for a life I was no longer part of. How could he? How could they? She knew about me, yet it didn't stop her. It didn't stop him. I put the phone back, my hands shaking, my mind a mess of anger, pain, and an overwhelming sense of loss. How long had this been going on? How could I have been so blind? Those questions haunted me through the night, keeping me awake as I lay next to the man who had promised to love and cherish me, now a stranger in our bed. I could barely get through 3 or 4 messages before I gave up. I was so repulsed. I didn't want Aaron to think something was wrong, so when he went to the bathroom, I pretended to be asleep, taking a deep breath and placing my phone on the side table. That night, after I saw those messages, felt like one of the longest of my life. Every word between Aaron and Monica was a dagger in my heart. I could only stomach a few messages, their plans, their affection for each other, so carefree and intimate, before I felt physically ill. The thought of continuing, of seeing more proof of the betrayal, was too much. I tossed Aaron's phone back onto the nightstand, my hands trembling with a mix of rage and sorrow. Lying in bed next to him, pretending to be asleep, was torture. I wanted so badly to wake him, to confront him right then and there. I imagined myself shaking him awake, demanding answers, or better yet, screaming until I was hoarse, anything to release the storm of emotions brewing inside me. But deep down, I knew that wouldn't get me anywhere. Aaron would have an excuse, a story cooked up and ready to serve. He always had his way with words. And that's when it hit me, the need for a plan, a scheme that would reveal the true extent of his deceit, not just to me, but to him as well. I needed him to feel a fraction of the pain he had inflicted on me. No sudden outbursts or tearful confrontations. This needed to be strategic, something that would hit him where it hurt most. So I spent the rest of the night plotting, turning over scenarios in my mind, each plan more elaborate than the last, until I settled on something. The morning after that sleepless night was oddly serene as Aaron left for work with a hurried kiss that lacked its usual warmth. I felt a mix of nervous energy and steely determination. I was ready to put my plan into action. The drive to the gym was a blur, my mind reeling with what I was about to do. I pulled into the gym parking lot, the same place where I'd seen Aaron and Monica in their embrace. My hands were steady on the wheel, my resolve firm. I rehearsed what I would say to Monica, how I would confront her, and then expose her to her supervisor. It seemed straightforward enough. Walk in, reveal the affair, watch her face crumble. Simple, yet satisfying. The gym was bustling with the usual morning crowd, people lost in their routines, headphones in, worlds unto themselves. I spotted Monica almost immediately. Her vibrant energy was unmistakable as she laughed with a client. Seeing her there, so carefree, fueled my resolve. I steeled myself and walked toward her, ready for confrontation. But just as I was about to approach, something unexpected happened. Monica's client, an elderly woman I recognized from some community events, suddenly lost her balance on the treadmill. Monica's quick reflexes saved the woman from a nasty fall, and she handled the situation with such genuine care and professionalism that it took me aback. It was a side of her I hadn't anticipated, compassionate, skilled, entirely at odds with the homewrecker I had painted in my mind. For a moment, I hesitated. The gym fell into a sudden hush as other trainers and clients rushed over to help. Monica was right there, directing them, ensuring the woman was attended to before anything else. After the woman was taken care of and the commotion settled, Monica turned, and her eyes met mine. I moved forward, my original intent simmering beneath a surface of newfound complexity. As I approached, she greeted me with a bright, unsuspecting smile, so dazzling it could have blinded me as I entered the gym. "Hello. How are you doing? Can I help you with something?" Her voice was warm, inviting. She had no idea who I was. The irony was too good to ignore. I paused. The words I had rehearsed suddenly felt heavy on my tongue. In that moment, my plan shifted. Instead of the harsh confrontation I had envisioned, I found myself saying, "Yes, I'm looking for a personal trainer. Can we talk?" I realized I had to stop before I could interrupt her and reveal that I wasn't just some client trying to get in shape. Rather, I was the wife of her lover. So I agreed to make the appointment, rather than make a scene. Monica smiled, her smile widening. "Of course. Let's sit down and discuss what you're looking for." Obviously, she was happy to welcome a new customer. After making that fake appointment, I left the gym with a smirk tugging at the corners of my mouth. The irony of the situation was delicious. Monica, the woman who was unknowingly wrecking my marriage, was now scheduled to be my personal trainer. As I drove away, thoughts of the upcoming encounter danced in my head. If only she knew who I really was and the secret agenda hidden behind my friendly facade. Our first training session was a mix of awkwardness for me and professionalism for her. Monica was all smiles, demonstrating routines and correcting my posture with a gentle touch here and there. It was an odd feeling, playing the part of a clueless client while knowing all too well the intimate details of her relationship with Aaron. As weeks turned into months, our sessions became a regular part of my life. Monica started opening up about her life, her dreams, and, ironically, her challenges with past relationships. The more I knew about her, the more complex my feelings became. She wasn't just the other woman in my husband's life. She was a person with her own stories and struggles. Our relationship evolved beyond the gym. Coffee dates after a sweaty session became our thing. We'd laugh over lattes about silly gym mishaps or debate the best protein bars. On weekends, we sometimes went shopping, browsing through racks of clothing, joking and offering fashion advice, like old college friends. Throughout this time, I was changing. The physical strength I gained from workouts was just one aspect. Emotionally, I was becoming someone new, more resilient, more composed, and somehow more understanding. Monica was inadvertently sculpting me into a stronger version of myself, not just physically, but in a way that fortified my spirit and resolve. Every coffee sip, every shared smile, I couldn't help but wonder how this would all end. Would revealing my true identity and intention shatter the bond we had formed? Or would it somehow liberate both of us from the lies that had entangled our lives? These thoughts haunted me, but I pushed them aside, focusing on the present, the strength I was gaining and the intricate dance of friendship and deception that was unfolding. It was a game of emotional chess, and I was making my moves with cautious precision. As the weeks slipped by, Aaron couldn't help but notice the changes in me. It wasn't just the obvious physical transformation, the toned arms, the firmer stance, the way my clothes hung a little looser around a slimming waist. It was more than that. There was a new light in my eyes, a spark of something he hadn't seen in a long time. Something that reminded him of the woman he fell in love with, only stronger, more confident. Each time I spoke of my new friend, the mysterious personal trainer who was helping me find myself again, I could see the curiosity tinged with suspicion in his eyes. He'd never met Monica, of course. I kept her identity and our sessions vague, a deliberate mystique added to keep him on edge. She's just amazing, so inspiring, I'd say casually over dinner, watching his expression change, a mixture of intrigue and unease playing across his features. This wasn't meant to be a part of my initial plan, but I couldn't deny the satisfaction it brought me. Aaron's growing fascination with my changes had an unexpected yet welcome side effect. He started pulling away from Monica, perhaps intimidated by my independence, or maybe out of guilt, fearing that his own secrets might unravel as I embraced this new version of myself. His texts became less frequent, his late nights shortened, and his mentions of the gym carried a hint of obligation rather than enthusiasm. Monica, on her part, seemed unaware of the subtle shift in Aaron's behavior. With him pulling back, she had more time on her hands, time she often spent with me. Our friendship blossomed, but so did my internal conflict. The lines between deception and genuine connection began to blur, and I found myself grappling with the moral complexities of my actions. Was the satisfaction of watching Aaron's guilt and confusion worth the potential cost of betraying someone who, despite everything, had become a real friend? That evening, the tension was palpable. Aaron stood in the doorway, watching me with a mixture of hope and desperation. The usual hum of our home felt quieter, more charged. Maybe it was the way the sunset cast shadows across the living room, or maybe it was the unspoken words hanging in the air. Everything felt different. "Hey, Vic, how about dinner at our favorite restaurant?" he asked, his voice carrying the warmth of old familiarity, but laced with an undercurrent of anxiety. He reached out, running his fingers gently through my hair, the way he knew I once loved it. It felt like a plea, a subtle request for the evening to smooth over the growing distance he clearly didn't understand. I paused, feeling the weight of his gaze. My response was rehearsed, prepared over the past months in my mind. "I have plans with my boyfriend, but I'd really like to. Maybe another time." I said it lightly, as if it were just a simple change of plans, not dropping the bombshell that I had someone new in my life. My smile was wide enough to seem genuine, but underneath, I could feel the turbulence of my emotions. I picked up my purse, feeling his stare grow more intense. His voice faltered as he repeated the word, "boyfriend." It hung awkwardly between us, out of place in the quiet of our home. His eyes searched mine for some indication that this was a joke, a playful tease, but there was nothing. I turned towards the door, the click of my heels punctuating the distance between us. As I stepped outside, I couldn't suppress a chuckle, not from amusement, but from the surreal nature of the moment. Here I was caught in a web I had woven myself, unsure how I had reached this point. The evening air was cool, a gentle breeze sweeping through the trees. It felt like a stark contrast to the emotional storm I had left behind in the house. I walked to my car, parked beneath the flickering streetlight, and sat there for a moment, letting the weight of my decision sink in. This wasn't just a dinner invitation, it was a pivot in my journey. A calculated risk, yes, but also a moment to reclaim control over my own life. Pulling out my phone, I hesitated for just a second before dialing Monica's number. This dinner could cement our growing friendship, or it could unravel everything I had been hiding. She picked up after a couple of rings. Her voice was bright, innocent, unaware of the emotional turmoil bubbling beneath my words.
Hey, Monica.
I was thinking, why don't we celebrate our friendship? How about dinner at fancy restaurant? It's been such a great journey getting to know you, and I think we deserve to treat ourselves, I said, masking the undercurrent of my true intentions with a cheerful tone. That sounds wonderful. I'd love to, Monica responded, her enthusiasm genuine. I proposed a time, 7 p.m., and soon we were set for our dinner. As I hung up, I sat in my car for a moment longer, going over the details. The restaurant I'd chosen was classy and intimate, perfect for what I had planned. Not too crowded, just enough privacy for a serious conversation. Tomorrow's dinner would be a turning point. Either it would push my plans forward, or it would expose cracks in my resolve. But either way, I was ready. This wasn't just about revenge anymore. It was about stepping out of the shadows of deceit and into the light of my own making. The evening of the dinner arrived. The city lights twinkled like distant stars, and the restaurant was bathed in the soft, warm glow of chandeliers. The tables were set with crisp linens and sparkling glassware, creating an ambience that was refined but welcoming. I arrived a few minutes early, taking a moment to absorb the setting. Everything was in place. Each detail sharpened my resolve. Monica arrived, looking radiant, her smile infectious as she approached the table. For a moment, it was easy to forget the complexity of the situation that had led us here. We exchanged pleasantries, then sat down. The clink of our glasses marked the beginning of what was meant to be a celebratory evening. Just us, embracing our new friendship. She raised her glass to propose a toast. But then, the unexpected happened. The door to the restaurant opened, and in walked Aaron. His entrance was dramatic, and at that moment, everything seemed to slow down. Shock, confusion, and realization flashed across his face as he spotted us together. Monica? What are you doing here? His voice faltered as he tried to process the scene before him. The room seemed to stand still. The background noise faded, and all eyes turned toward our table. The regret on Aaron's face was palpable. Monica's glass hovered in midair as her smile faded into confusion. She turned to me, searching for an explanation, then back to Aaron, her mind racing to piece together what was happening. The tension in the air was thick, every second stretching longer than it should. And in that moment, I saw how far I had come. In the red outfit I wore, I felt a newfound confidence, a sense of self I hadn't realized was there. I knew this moment would change everything. I maintained my composure, my face a mask of serene confidence. Inside, my heart was racing, but outwardly, I was the picture of calm. Aaron, how unexpected to see you here, I said, my voice steady, betraying none of the turmoil that churned beneath the surface. Aaron approached our table, his initial shock giving way to a cautious curiosity. I didn't realize you two knew each other, he said, his eyes darting between us, searching for answers. The situation was ripe with irony, the secret connections, the hidden truths, all converging in this unexpected public confrontation. Monica set her glass down, her cheerful demeanor replaced by a growing awareness of the gravity of the situation. Yes, we've become good friends, she managed to say, her voice a mix of defiance and uncertainty. The waiter approached, oblivious to the undercurrent swirling around our table, and cheerfully asked if we were ready to order. It was almost comical, the return to mundane matters after such a dramatic revelation. Aaron waved him away, his mind clearly elsewhere, focused on the unfolding drama. As he stood there, the pieces of the puzzle slowly came together in his mind. I could see the conflict play out across his face. Surprise, betrayal, realization. It was all there, silent testimony to the complexity of human emotions. As the tension at our table reached a palpable level, I decided it was time to take control of the evening. Standing up, I took a spoon and gently tapped it against my glass. The clear, crisp sound cut through the murmur of the restaurant, heads turning toward us, curious eyes and hushed whispers filling the room. Good evening, everyone, I began, my voice steady and projecting the confidence I felt was crucial in that moment. Let me introduce myself. I'm Victoria, and I'd like to say how much I appreciate these two individuals in my life. I gestured gracefully toward Aaron and Monica, giving them each a nod that was both acknowledging and measured. The room fell into a deeper silence. The patrons and staff alike sensed the unfolding drama. I appreciate you accepting my invitation to dinner tonight, Aaron and Monica, I continued, pausing momentarily as I noticed Aaron's nervous hand movements. He was fidgeting, twisting a napkin, his discomfort visible to all. This pause was deliberate. A moment to let the weight of my words sink in, not just for Aaron and Monica, but for everyone in earshot. The clinking of the glass had not only silenced the room, but also fortified my resolve. As I stood there, with all eyes on me, I felt a mix of empowerment and inevitable sadness. This was not just a revelation, it was an acknowledgement of the significant shifts in my life and relationships. I've learned a lot about honesty and integrity these past months, I continued, my gaze sweeping over the audience before settling on Aaron and Monica. Tonight is about truth and revelation. It's about understanding that the choices we make affect not just our lives, but those around us. Aaron, Monica, you both have been pivotal in teaching me these lessons. The words hung in the air, heavy with meaning and implication. Aaron's eyes widened slightly, a hint of fear, or perhaps realization, dawning upon him. Monica, ever composed, maintained a steady, if somewhat strange, smile, but her eyes were cautious, wary of what I might reveal next. This dinner, I said, pausing to gather my thoughts, is my way of saying thank you. Thank you for the lessons, for the pain, and for the strength I've gained. It was necessary, and it has prepared me for a new chapter. My voice was calm, but there was an undercurrent of deep emotion bubbling just beneath the surface. As the dinner guests resumed their subdued chatter, I leaned forward, lowering my voice to a more intimate tone, ensuring that Aaron and Monica could hear every word distinctly. I have undergone a mental and physical transformation in the last 3 months, I began, my gaze locking onto Aaron's. His eyes flickered with a cocktail of emotions, regret, fear, perhaps even a touch of admiration. Aaron, my love, I continued, you saw the change, didn't you? And it scared you. His eyes darted away, unable to hold my stare. His discomfort was visible as he adjusted his collar, an almost subtle acknowledgement of my accusation. You pushed your lover away because you believed you would lose me. Turning slightly, I addressed Monica, who had maintained her composed facade until now. Furthermore, Monica, my dear friend, you had no idea how important you are to my greater plan. Her expression, which had been one of polite attention, cracked just a bit. The corners of her eyes tightened, her smile faltering, and there was a subtle shift in her posture as she leaned back, as if the weight of my words physically impacted her. Monica's face became a canvas of confusion and dawning realization. The atmosphere at the table thickened, charged with the tension of my revelations. The clatter of cutlery and the murmur of voices around us seemed to fade into the background as this private drama unfolded in its own quiet storm. This was the one she hadn't expected. I continued, my voice now softer, more reflective. You see, every step of my newfound journey, every session at the gym, every coffee, every shopping trip, it wasn't just about rebuilding myself or forming a friendship. It was about setting the stage, about crafting a scenario where the truths could no longer stay hidden. As I spoke these words, I could see the cogs turning in Monica's mind, the pieces falling into place. Her initial shock was replaced by a deeper, more resigned understanding. She looked from me to Aaron and back again, her eyes narrowing, not with anger, but with a kind of pained acceptance. Aaron, meanwhile, sat frozen. His earlier nervous energy was now stilled by the gravity of my words. He knew, in that moment, that the dynamics of our relationships, his with Monica, mine with him, and my unlikely friendship with her, had been irrevocably altered. The facade had not only cracked but shattered. Revealing the stark and complicated truths beneath all the twists is that I found someone new who loves me for who I am, I said, pausing to savor the moment. At that exact moment, an elegant man walked into the restaurant, his timing impeccable. He came straight to our table, took my hand, and gave it a reassuring squeeze. His warm touch was all I needed. Everyone meet my new friend, Jack, I said, my voice steady and filled with purpose. The announcement was met with a mixture of amazement and skepticism from those seated around the table. As far as you're concerned, Aaron, I began, my tone resolute. I'm getting a divorce. I paused, letting the words hang between us, stark and undeniable. Remember our prenup? The one that mentioned cheatings? My eyes held his, unflinching, as I watched the realization sink in, the color draining from his face. He opened his mouth, possibly to object or plead, but no words came. I nodded toward Monica, adding, Thanks to my new best friend here, I have all the evidence I need. So everything you own will soon be mine. Then, I turned my attention to Monica, who had been a silent spectator to my revelation. Her face was a mask of controlled emotion, but her eyes betrayed a hint of fear and uncertainty, unsure of what my words meant for her. Of course, I'm telling your boss everything, my dear Monica, I continued, my voice softening, but still firm. It's not a good idea to try to rob someone of their husband. I'm sorry, but it looks like you're going to have to find a new gym. Her reaction was subtle, a slight tightening of her jaw, a fleeting look of resignation. This was not the outcome she had anticipated when she became involved with Aaron, and now, she was facing the professional repercussions of those choices. The table was silent. The tension was palpable, like a thick fog surrounding us. The rest of the restaurant carried on, oblivious, with the clink of glasses and murmurs of conversation acting as a distant backdrop to our personal drama. I looked between Aaron and Monica, seeing the impact of my words settling over them. This wasn't just a confrontation. It was a declaration of my newfound strength and independence. Turning back to Aaron, I softened my tone slightly, not out of sympathy, but out of a desire to close this chapter with a semblance of dignity. We had good times, Aaron, I said quietly, but you chose this path. I wish things could have been different. The atmosphere in the restaurant was charged as the finality of my words sunk in. Monica's face, previously composed, now mirrored a mix of shock and dawning comprehension as she realized her role in the narrative I had carefully constructed. Her shock was palpable, her eyes wide as she grappled with the realization that she had been merely a pawn in my broader strategy. Across from her, Aaron's complexion turned a ghostly shade of pale, his features etched with disbelief and despair. He opened his mouth to say something, perhaps an apology or an explanation, but the words seemed to fail him. Vic, I'm so, he began, his voice a hoarse whisper, but I was done listening to half-hearted apologies or excuses. Keep it, I interrupted sharply, my tone final, leaving no room for ambiguity. My words cut through the tense air, severing whatever feeble hope Aaron might have held that this could be mended. Monica, still reeling from the revelation, made a feeble attempt to apologize, her voice trembling slightly. I didn't realize. Maybe next time you'll think twice before getting involved with a married man, I said, cutting her off. The edge in my voice was not just bitterness, but a reborn sense of self-worth, a declaration that I would no longer be a victim in anyone's story, including my own. As Aaron and Monica gathered their things, their movements sluggish, weighed down by their own guilt and regret, they left the restaurant. Their exit was quiet, almost pitiful, a stark contrast to the bombastic drama that had just unfolded. Left at the table with Jack, the friend who had stood by me through this transformation, we watched them leave. It felt like symbolic closure to the chaos that had upended my life. Jack and I turned to each other, a knowing look passing between us. We raised our glasses, the crystal catching the light, sparkling as brightly as the resolve in our eyes. To honesty, new love, and perfect revenge, I toasted, my words feeling like a cleansing breath. Jack echoed the sentiment, his smile supportive and understanding. As we clinked glasses, the sounds of the restaurant returned to my awareness, the gentle hum of conversations, the soft music playing in the background, life moving around us. This toast wasn't just about reveling in the downfall of those who had wronged me. It was a celebration of rebirth, of reclaiming control over my narrative and stepping into a future where I was the author of my own story. Thanks for watching this video. Don't forget to subscribe and hit notification bell to stay updated.